Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Learning Torah Lishma. Today, we're going to go into a topic that we've discussed many times, but we're going to go into it with a certain type of depth. And that's the topic. Let me first make the claim. The claim is that most issues that we see in the world, meaning there's issues that the world is going through. I'm not talking about the Jewish world, I'm talking about the Goyish world. Now, some of those issues are also happening in the Jewish world, but most of them are not. You understand? In the frum world, we don't have the men and women, the boys and girls, the children are not being taught to change sex. Rather, they're taught to appreciate their sex. You understand? This LGBTQ, all these things that we see in the Goyish world, in the frum Jewish world. I'm not saying the person's not frum, then he's a Jew, but he's living like a guy. You understand? So whatever issues are there, most of those issues they're having as well. You understand? But I'm talking about in the frum Jewish world. The issues that we see out there, people think it's they're having these issues, we're not. Now, there's a truth. We're not having those exact issues. However, we have to take lessons from what's happening. Because the reason why we're not having that issue is because as a Jew, there's so many commandments that it creates a barrier for the Ra, the evil of the Satan, of the Satan. It creates a barrier. So the reason why we're not seeing that is not because the Satan isn't trying, but it's because he can't do it so outright. You understand? So he has to do it in a much more limited fashion. But nonetheless, he's pushing those same trends, those trends that you see in the world. The Satan is pushing those same trends in Judaism, but in a much watered down scenario. In Judaism, Judaism does not believe, it doesn't believe in sex change. It doesn't believe a woman should act like a man should act like a woman. Rather, each person should respect themselves as a man, respect themselves as a woman, and respect their abilities. The ideology of Judaism says that, and also common sense says that. So, due to the many laws in Judaism, it creates a barrier. There's literally 613 laws and 7 rabbinical laws, altogether 620. You understand? So there's a lot of laws, and each of the laws has so many intricacies. You understand? So it creates a barrier. So what the Satan does is he does whatever he can. So we have to understand, just because we're not getting hit with LGBTQ, we're not getting hit with sex changes, it doesn't mean that that evil of the Satan isn't trying to hit us. No, he is trying to hit us. He's hitting people the best they can. Jews, because of their many mitzvahs, he's very limited. So the way he hits us is in lower level categories, but that same direction, just starting way back. Christians, right, that they have a Bible, it's hard to hit them. Atheists, it's the easiest to hit. You understand? the Satan, just because you're not being hit by LGBTQ, you're not being hit by these things, doesn't mean that the Satan isn't trying to hit you in some way with that ideology. No, he's hitting you also, but in much watered down scenarios. Meaning physically, the person isn't, people aren't thinking about, it's not being taught to change your sex to LGBTQ. These things aren't being taught, and if anything, they're being discouraged. The opposite is being taught, yes. But the Yetzer Hara tries to hit us with it wherever he can. And I'm going to point out some of those things. We've pointed it out before, but we're going to point it out again. So people should understand the workings of the Yetzer Hara. When you see things, the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, when you see things, when you hear things, don't just say, well, we're not doing that, because you're not. You're physically not. You understand? Frum Jews are not doing that. But you have to, when you see things, you have to say, is the Yetzer Hara, is this, if Hashem, if I'm seeing it, if I'm hearing it, that means that that this is what the Satan, the Satan's trying to do. And that means just because he can't hit me directly like that, doesn't mean he's not trying to hit me. And you have to go deep into yourself, into the system, and see and plug up the holes of where the Satan is seeping through. That's what we're going to discuss today. Right? Another issue we see today, the destruction of the middle class. And we know that the middle class is the most important class. More important than the rich people is the middle class, right? We always see when they give, all the presidents, when they come in and they give tax exemptions and they help with tax, they're always helping the rich people. But they never say, you know what? Instead of 10,000, let's go to 15,000, that there's no federal tax on. They don't do that. You understand? Things like that happen very rarely. They don't say, you know what, for the lower class, when you make this amount, that we're going to put down that when you start paying 20% federal tax, we're going to put that down to 10%. We're going to lower the tax for the beginning first classes. You don't see that happening. Lower it a bit. You don't see it happening. Where do they lower it? Where do they give tax exemptions and all these things? To the rich. Why? Because America exists because of the regular person. Because of, we would call the simple person, the Pashatiyid, the regular person. That's how America's bread and butter, where the federal government gets their bread and butter from. And therefore, they don't give so many exemptions there, which they should. You understand? That should be where they focused on, giving exemptions. Be creative there. Leave the rich people alone. You understand? Don't make it harder for them, and make it easier for the regular folk, and make it easier for everybody. You understand? Maybe taxes-wise, federal tax should never be more than 40%. Bring it down for everybody. Now it's up to 50%. Crazy. Bring it down to 40. Eventually, get it down to 20 for everybody. You understand? The levels exist from 0 to 20. Not that the levels exist from 10 to 50%. You understand? It should be from 0 to 20. And that's definitely possible to do. It'll take a few years, but it's definitely possible to do. All these issues that we see, the Baal Shem Tov teaches us that when we see something, we hear something, it's not for naught. It's not for no reason. It's there to teach us. Look into your actions. Look into your ideology. Look into the way you do things, to the system. It's there to teach you, to fix, to make better, to help people. Let's begin. The first big avla, the first terrible thing that was done in Yiddishkeit, and again, this is not by Reb Aaron, it's after Reb Aaron. Reb Aaron, I've spoken, he only took geniuses in. If anybody I know a few people that weren't, very smart, meaning, and they got in, but that was because of the Mashgiach, because of other factors, but Reb Aaron himself only accepted geniuses. This whole thing of learning full-time, according to Reb Aaron, was only for the geniuses. And he wanted geniuses because he wanted to repopulate the Gedolim. You understand? Now, the Heilige Satmar Rebbe said that was incorrect. That no man should go, as a grown man, you need to work every day. And it should be, and Kailel is no more than a half a day learning, a half a day working. You understand? Meaning you have to work a half a day. A man has to bring in support for his family. And together, him working and his wife working together, they're not living rich, extravagant lives, but they could live as a simple person. You understand? But in holiness, in extreme holiness. This is what the Satmar Rebbe taught. So he was against Rav Aaron's, what Rav Aaron said, you understand? But nonetheless, that's what Rav Aaron held. Now, what happened is they took that whole idea and they said, everybody should be learning full-time. You understand? And there should be support. In Eretz Yisrael, there should be a house. V'chulei, act. You understand? After you get married, BMG, where this all began, this whole movement of the Koil movement, when you know how much they were getting paid not too long ago? They were getting, each Koil guy was getting paid, and not always were they getting paid, you understand, but officially on the books they were getting paid $350. And then they made a rule. They said, that you have to be in Koil in BMG for 3 years, and then you'll start getting paid. Because they said the first 3 years, you should be able to manage. Because of the shvers giving this, your parents give that. You understand? And now BMG does give around $1,000. I don't know if it went up. It was $1,000 each month. It could be it went up, but that's more recent. But just to understand what's happening. This is the progression. This is what's happening. If you want to go learn, right, as a bacher before a younger man, you need to pay. You understand? Sometimes they'll allow you in because of government programs. Different scenarios. You understand? They always try to get money from the parents and also the government programs, but sometimes they'll allow you to get in through government programs. They'll rely on the money from the government. This is how it runs. So now, of course, they could just say this and they're explaining their logic, but the problem is that when you plug it into life, into what we call common sense of life, what we call street smarts of life, this system completely destroys the religion. The Jewish religion completely destroys it. And nowhere in the Torah does it say this. This is people's own ideas. They took an idea that Rav Aaron was claiming that you should look for the geniuses. They took that idea and they applied it to everybody. And that's not physically what Rav Aaron did. Rav Aaron only applied this idea to the geniuses. You understand? if a genius wanted to, he gave that ability. He didn't say you have to, but he opened it up. And now they're claiming that this is what everybody should be doing. And basically, if you don't do it, you're sort of thrown off. You're like Lech Lazaza. You're sort of thrown. You're like that goat that's thrown over the cliff. That's unless you actually make a lot of money, then you're given covered because you work. If you make a lot of money, because then you're supporting these, in their eyes, these great constitution, these great places. You understand? When we start to explain it, you see that there's a little krumkeit in it. You understand? And that sorts, when you see a little krumkeit, you got to go back and see. You think of things in a proper logical way and see maybe everything's krum. You understand? I just want to say, I see a lot of Satmar Hasidim and Hasidim in general, because when the Satmar Rebbe said this, the kollel is learning half a day, working half a day. He was vehemently against what Rav Aaron was saying. Rav Aaron wasn't even referring, when Rav Aaron was around, he wasn't referring to everybody. He was referring to the geniuses. You understand? And he wasn't saying that as a genius you have to. He was trying to encourage them to. You understand? Because he wanted to rebuild the Gedolim, great Gedolim that we had in the past. So the Satmar Rebbe was against him. Now, if Aaron, he has his own 2 feet that he could stand on, he doesn't need our haskama. And the Satmar Rebbe doesn't either need our haskama. But when the Satmar Rebbe said that, he was the one that brought out Hasidus, the way we see it today. All the other Rebbes were scared. He was the one that brought out Hasidus. If it wasn't for him, Hasidus, would just look like Litvish people. You wouldn't see it in all its grandeur. It might have disappeared. The Satmar Rebbe is the one that brought back to life Hasidus. That you have, not just that the Rebbe is a Chassid, but the whole community is Chassidim. You understand? And the Satmar Rebbe himself, the first Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel, he said that this whole idea of kollel is not learning a whole day. You learn a half a day and you work a half a day. You do not remove working from your day-to-day responsibilities. And we see that not only do most of the Chassiduses ignore the Satmar Rebbe, and they have adopted the Litvish and ideology, which the ideology of Litvish today is not Reb Aaron's ideology, but rather a new ideology, however that came about. But it's not Reb Aaron's ideology, it's Rabbanim, Tzadikim, Rebbitzins after Reb Aaron or during his time that are creating this, but Reb Aaron himself isn't the one saying that this is the way things should be. That everybody, that the ideology is everybody. Rather, Reb Aaron was focused only on the geniuses, real geniuses. You understand? What upsets me so much is that not only do the Hasidim ignore the Satmar Rebbe, not only do the Rebbes ignore the Satmar Rebbe, he was the head of all the Rebbes, but Satmar Hasidim themselves ignore the Rebbe. And in Satmar, there's a lot that I've met a lot of Hasidim that they do follow the Rebbe. They learn a half a day and they work a half a day. And I've met many Hasidim that they work a whole day and they learn a little bit, a little bit in the beginning of the day, a little bit at night, you understand? They try to get in as much learning as they can, but they work a full day. But unfortunately, we also see Satmar Hasidim that ignore the Rebbe and learn a full day. This is just the reality. And what's sad is not only aren't they following the Rebbe, but they're not following Reb Aaron either. Reb Aaron's focus where the genius is. Not that this applies to everybody. And if you can't, unless you're making tons of money and giving tons of tzedakah, tipa srucha. Tipa srucha to the boy, and tipa srucha to the girl who doesn't want someone learning full time. Let's understand this a little deeper. Person will say, what's so bad? They're learning full time. The evilness is that this became the ideology, something that everybody has to do. That is the projection. It's very difficult for a person who wants to, for a young boy, that he wants to start working. He's 18, he's 20, he's 22, he wants to start working. It's very difficult for him. In fact, until you are married once, meaning once you're divorced, it's a different story. But until you're married, at least until you're married for the first time, no matter how old you are, they're looking at you like a bacher, like a child. And they're expecting this of you, this learning full time, no working, that you should pretend that you're the Rajbi, because they're not supporting you. Even when you get married and you're in Kaila, they even after you get married, they expect you to learn full time. And where this all began, BMG, Beis Medrash Gavaya, they're then saying you have to be in BMG 3 years without payment, and then you start getting paid. These are young people that just got married. They're struggling. And now the husband, he learns, learning in BMG, right? You 8 o'clock Shachris, 7:45 Shachris, all the way to 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. And then there's people that come night Seder. So they're learning a whole day. And when they made this rule originally of 3 years, people were getting paid $350 a month. And that's, and a man, he $350. You buy 2 pairs of shoes. 2 pairs of shoes cost more than that. You need to buy regular clothing. You want to help out your kids. You want to give something to your wife. $350. You want to help out the household. You don't want the whole burden to be on your wife. $350. And then you make them wait 3 years? So they're going to say, well, now it's $1,000. Well, when you did it, it was $350. And even $1,000, making someone wait 3 years, $1,000's nothing. Today, $1,000? That's not even rent. It's not even half the rent. Maybe if you live in a basement, it's half the rent. And you make them wait 3 years? 3 years? And this is like the Malchus of Kailel, which is BMG. BMG is like where everything began, the Malchus of Kailel. And this is how they treat their Kailel Jungelite? Shocking. All your excuses mean nothing. No, the father-in-laws are giving in the first years. No, they're not. And if they're giving, they're giving their blood money. They're giving money to these younger they're giving money to their kid that just got married. But because they're giving money to them, they're going into debt. They're taking off mortgages on their house. They can't marry off other kids because they're giving them money for the first 3-5 years, whatever it is. It's blood money. The parents themselves are learning full time, or they work and they have to give tuition for all the kids to go to yeshiva, and there's the house, the payment on the house, the food. It's blood money. It's money that when you give and a person takes it, it brings curse. It brings curses into their life. Because when you take blood money from someone, God is vengeful against that. His vengeance is upon you. Never take blood money from someone. Just a little mashal, a little parable for this in today's world. You have two smokers. Smokers they'll like, I don't smoke. I never smoked. I never will smoke. I'm too intelligent to do a stupid thing like that. Even as a young person, I was too intelligent. You have to be stupid to do that. But there's a lot of people that smoke. So smokers, they'll come over to me and ask me and because they need a cigarette. It's addictive. So the rationale isn't working very much there. So they'll just keep asking me. You have like 10 guys every day. They'll ask you for a cigarette if you're in a place where people smoke. You understand? But the smokers understand that if someone opens up his cigarette box and there's only one left, right? This is not just a Jewish thing. This is also by Goyim. You understand? If it's the last cigarette, no matter how much you're craving for a cigarette, you don't take the last cigarette of someone, because people understand that's a blood cigarette. You understand? That person's gonna need a cigarette. And that's his last one. You take it from him, that's a blood cigarette. People don't take it. The Shver and Shviger, they don't have money. The parents, they don't have money. It's blood money. It's blood money. And because of that 1% that do have money and are supporting, therefore, you're going to just focus on that 1% and ignore the 99%. Now, I'm always, amazed by the power of positivity used in the wrong way. You just focus on that 1%, and that 1% you just add 2 zeros to, and you forget about the 99%. That's positivity being used in the wrong way. True positivity is able to, common sense, able to see that's 1%, but 99% not, 90% not, 85% not. And therefore we can't do something like that. If we just have to say that our koilel's full, then just say that, but this whole thing of making people wait 3 years is unhealthy. Right? If BMG is full, so then someone else will open up a koilel, you understand? And they'll pay them. But to create such an ideology of waiting 3 years, and I don't want to talk about other things like, BMG started this ideology of At first it was 6 months, and now I think sometimes it's less than 6 months of you can't get married. And there's other schools that I know that they have a 5-year you can't get married. You have to be in the school for 5 years. And it doesn't make a difference if you came in by 20. You have to wait till 25. You understand? If you came in by 18, you still have to wait 5 years. You have to wait till you're 23. Otherwise, they don't allow any of the boys to come to your wedding. He terrorized a shadchan if they marry off someone. They put a blacklist. They have a blacklist of shadchanim, ones that marry a boy from BMG before the 6 months, or that was in the beginning. Now, whatever time it is, now it fluctuates sometimes. Other schools, 5 years. What's happening here? What's happening here? Mavel arai. But there's something more sinister. There's something deeper happening here. Again, we've talked about this a lot, so I'm not talking about every single aspect here, but we're bringing out different points. But listen to my other shurim as well. But here we want to hit on certain nekudas. There's this idea of the middle class. The middle class, in the middle class are people, the definition of a middle class, being part of the middle class is working. When you remove working, then you're trying to say that they're the elite. Now, that's the way they look at it. Now, the reality is that the elite is the middle class, someone that learns and works and spiritual, and that's the good character. That's the truth, that the middle class is the elite. But I'm talking about how people look at it. If you don't have to work, then you're looked at as an elitist. Which goes against Jewish ideology, that spirituality and working as an adult, you need to work every day. That's part of your spirituality. Are there unique exceptions? Yes. But even if you're a unique exception, you still will profit by acting like a simple person, which the simple person is who I call the elite person. But they don't call them that, you understand? But to take positivity and to look at the exception and then say everybody, and to add to that 1% another 2 zeros, and to look at everybody like that exception, that's incorrect. And that's harmful for 99% of people. Extremely harmful. The Kailal ideology removes the middle class, removes people learning how to work, learning how to make a parnasa. It removes people from doing the parnasa because they need to learn full time. And not learning full time is basically tipa srucha. It's better that you weren't born. That's the ideology today. Unless you're making so much money and you're giving so much charity, tzedakah, then you get an exemption. You get like a patur, Is this the idea of God? Is this the idea of Hashem? This is craziness. This is anti-common sense. Destroying the middle class in Judaism. And the middle class, just like in the Goyish world, the middle class is really the power of the nation. So too in Judaism. The middle class, who are really the elites, those are the foundations of Judaism. Those people are the ones that create the foundations for Judaism. When you remove it, then everything goes bonkers. You can't get people to come on the derech. People go off the derech. People are getting divorced. Divorce keeps keeps rising. Whatever they do, since the system is so corrupt, it's the way they set it up to work is such a dysfunctional way of working. When you come to street smarts of how the world works, common sense, and how common sense dictates things should be. The system is so opposite to common sense. It's so opposite to street smarts that whatever they do, all they cause is more destruction. Sometimes they put in a new rule when it comes to shidduchim, and for a little while things get better, but that's maybe, usually that never happens, but at least sometimes they think it did, but really it didn't. But even if for a little bit it came better, that little benefit quickly goes away because of the poison that's all around. The poisonous system destroys anything and everything. People living their lives feeling that they are forced to serve Hashem, as opposed to that love, that connection, that excitement, that awe, that reverence of God. It's missing from people's lives. This is a tragedy. This is a spiritual shaya, a spiritual holocaust. That in the minds of people, spirituality became these weights that pull you down into the depths of the ocean. It removes all freedom, all goodness, all happiness from life. Because it destroys your ability. You're not taught how to make a living, how to become rich. You're taught not to go to work. To get married, there's this impossible system of resume. When you want to send your kids to a Jewish school, you have to fight with them so much. Not just people that don't have money, which is almost everybody because of the system. Even the people that have money, they fight against them. They're like, are you learning b'chavrus every day? Do you do this? Do you do that? We only accept people that are learning in Kailel. And then the Kailel people they don't accept because they don't have money. Craziness what's happening. Parents crying. Every year to get their child into yeshiva. It's so scary. What's going to be? Some parents, it's every year. Some parents, it's that first time getting them into your yeshiva. And then you're so scared to switch, even though your child isn't thriving there and a different place would be better, but you're so scared to switch, to go through all that pain over again and possibly not succeed. And your child will be out of school for a whole year. Tuition. Not just tuition until 18, but even after 18, tuition. You have to do tuition until the person gets married. Because if he's not in a school as a boy, forget about it. And a girl, even after she finishes the regular, school system, she has to go to, what do they call it? She has to go, she has to then go to seminary. She didn't go to seminary. What type of girl are you marrying? She didn't go to seminary. She didn't go to that seminary. When they were in school, they didn't go to that school. What type of elementary school did he go to? Where did you go as for Beis Medrash? Where craziness. lunacy, absolute evilness. And there's such a pressure. There's such a, people can't breathe. Singles can't breathe. The fright of not getting married, of not having children. Getting married late. Getting married and getting divorced and then having to re-get married. A person married with kids, getting them into yeshiva, the money for the schools. Such a fright. Where is all the money being sapped to? Where's all the money? The whole railroad of money. Where's it being sent to? To the kollel. The kids are forgotten. Instead of focusing on everybody learning full-time every day, you should focus on, the first thing to focus on is that every Jewish child until the age of 18 is able to learn in a frum Jewish school with good education, good secular education, and of course, good spiritual Jewish education. And it should be free. At most, it should not be more than $100 or $200 a child, and then it should never be more than $1,000 per family that they need to use per month. That's where the money should be going, to making sure that the kids are spiritually fed, are worldly fed, that they're able to exist in this world successfully. They're going to be here for a while, 80, 90, 100 years. They're going to be here for a while. They have to know how to exist here. If they don't, that's what creates all the bad character, all the going off the derech, all the fact that no one wants to become from. They just see the craziness. They're like, what? You destroyed the middle class? What are you, Democrats? Isn't it such a sign of isn't it the biggest sign of failure, the fact that from 15 million Jews, only 2 million are religious, and from those 2 million, not everybody is religious, religious. 2 million? When going back 70, 100 years ago, when you're bringing back the world, you understand, from after the Shaya, which around 70 years ago, whatever, 70, 80 years ago, when you're bringing back the world, back from the Shaya, from the Holocaust, you couldn't even get half the Jews back to their Father in heaven. And why couldn't you do that? Because of kollel. It wasn't that everywhere was opening up free Jewish schools that have good secular education and of course good Jewish frum education. You couldn't do that. No, they couldn't. Because they took that energy and they put it by kollel. Look what it did. Look what it's doing today. And the parents see this. And I'm talking to you, the parents. If a spiritual leader, whether they're male or female, is looking at this, a Rebbitzin or a rabbi or a shiva or a rebbe, chacham is looking at this, I hope you change, you drastically change. But my focus is the simple person. A person that they have a family. They have their daughters, they have their sons, and they see this happening to them. And And they don't shake the heavens. And shaking the heavens is not getting into a fight with your rabbi or the rebbitzin, or your rebbe or a shiva or chacham. It's not that. You could talk to them about it. You see if they are understanding it. If they don't, you simply have to leave. Forget about these big buildings of idol worship, the big synagogues of idol worship where they have these gross, these krum, these grub ideologies. Everybody in their community should be making their own shuls. And if we can't find a tzaddik that understands the truth, then we have to look for a working yid that's well-to-do, that's a Yirei Shamayim, and he should be the leader. That he makes sure that common sense, that Jewish ideology isn't being ignored. He is the filter. He and she, because it's him and his wife. If the shul is controlled, there are some shuls that the rabbi is controlling it. So if the rabbi doesn't realize this truth, then just leave. If you're the people that are in control of that shul and the rabbi and the rebbitzin don't understand this, just kick them out. Kick them out. Put up a person who's successful, who's a Yirei Shamayim, he has a Havas Hashem, he has Yiras Hashem. Put him up there until you could find a real tzaddik. It's not easy to find real tzaddikim today. The system, this koil system, produces so many fakers, not people that want to be fakers. It's just that the system teaches incorrect things, and therefore they're all fakers. Not because these people are evil or want to be evil. In most overwhelming scenarios, it's not. It's because they were taught to think incorrectly. They were brought up. They drank the milk of mothers that were thinking like this. Every time they hear a shir, it's saying this nonsense. Everything around them is this nonsense. This is what you need to do. And I wanted to play a cry. People are going to know when I play it what it is, but I want to play it to wake up the hearts of the parents, because I see that the parents are letting it go, letting this be, because of the great pressure that's put upon them, and they can't even think properly about the issue. You need to break out of this brainwash. You need to break out of it with the force of a rocket ship, with the force of a volcano, with the force of eruption, to save your family, to save your kids. And I want to play something that we see, a person who is breaking out of the confines, how he could go to jail, they could kill him, they could do terrible things, they could throw him in a dungeon and throw away the key. They could do terrible things to him, but he speaks out against what's happening. I'm going to play it right now to give you a little courage, a little to help to get you knocked back into reality. To stop being a slave to falsehood. Here we go.
A Nigerian pastor speaking out for help. Go ahead, Humberto.
Look at it today. Is there any Muslim here?
I can't hear it.
United Nations, I know you're watching you. American Senate, you are watching what I'm doing. I'm saying here. Special advisor to Trump. Now, please tell Trump to save our life in Nigeria. They are killing Christians in Nigeria. Massacre Christians. If they say they kill Muslims, Kids, Muslims are being killed. By who? By Muslims. Look at it today.
By the way, this is one pastor, and video I sent it to you directly.
As a Jew, we see this pastor, how every day he's burying dead people that are being shot, killed, raped, everything bad happening to them. And he's speaking up. About what's happening. He's saying, please help me. He doesn't have the power to go against them, against all these radical Muslims. He doesn't. And we, in our lives, our children are being destroyed. We're being destroyed. And we just go along with it. We don't care. This is Achzarius. Every bad midah, that's you. You, the parents that are allowing this to happen. The rabbis, the rebbitzins, the rabbis, they're all goners, they're all losers. There's no point talking to them. You, as the parents that are allowing this to happen to your children. V'lo pischem pei, don't open up your mouths. What's going on? Do you know the hell, the pit of hell that is awaiting for you when you die with all your Torah that you're learning? You're going into Shal Tachtas, you're going to a place that you go in there and you never come out. Because your empathy is so not there. You see what's happening to your children and you don't care. You don't care. You see what's happening to other people. You don't care. Judaism screams against this. Even Christianity, which, builds their religion on Judaism, they realize these things. We have to thank God we're not in that scenario that people are being killed every day like this. But in Judaism, Midas is such an essential to Judaism that in Judaism, killing someone financially, killing someone physically, killing someone emotionally is the same act as killing someone. And you as parents that you don't care. This is treason. 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 Wake up. Leave the false temples of idol worship where they worship Kylo. They don't care about the kids. They worship elitism. They don't care about the middle class. They disrespect the Pashut Yid that learns and works and wants to have a happy family. Kids that can get married easily at a young age. They disrespect that. They don't care about you. All they care about is this getchka of Kylo, is their own coffers, the free money that they get, the covet, the honor that they get, the control that they have over people that they love to feel that control. Wake up! Hashem loves you. He wants to see you thrive. He wants to see you cause good in this world. So do it. Stop with the idols, with the false ideology. And especially these people, wherever they may be, rabbis, rebbitzins, rabbis, chachams, I don't care, whoever they are, Rosh Yeshivas, if they're giving this ideology, they were killing people. Judaism, killing someone financially, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever. That is killing 100% in Judaism. Speaking Lashon Hara is killing someone. Embarrassing someone is Ritzicha. You embarrass someone for no reason. I'm not talking about now that these people are causing such destruction that we're calling them out. You embarrass someone just because of a little petty argument. That's Ritzicha in Judaism. This is Ritzicha. You have to buy a pistol and not allow the rabbi in. Not allow the Rebbitzin in. Not allow the Rebbe, the Chacham, whoever they meet. Those people that call themselves tzaddikim, that have this shita of koilel, that have the shita of resume, that destroy the middle class, that make the girls think that the boys are evil unless proven innocent. And it's so hard for a boy to go out with a girl. All those people that are speaking this, they have to be thrown out of Judaism. Just like that one scenario, there was that one town when the Nazis came, and the rabbi, to get better treatment from the Nazis, he sold out his community. He said, "Yes, go with the Nazis," and they were all killed. A few survivors, and one of that head rabbi that did that, he survived the Holocaust, and he was thrown out of Judaism. But he's a rabbi. Yes, but you killed people. Here they're killing you with ideology, with brainwash, with stupidity, with nonsense. Wake up. I love you. Hashem loves you. Hashem wants the best for you and your kids. Stop destroying your soul. Stop going in the ways of evilness, disguised as righteousness. I love you, and Hashem loves you more.